Welcome back to Movie Recaps. Today I will show you a drama, mystery, sci-fi film from 2015, titled Embers. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. It's been 10 years since a global pandemic took over the world. A dangerous virus has killed most of Earth's population, and those who have survived suffer from amnesia of both the retrograde and anterograde kinds. This means they can't recall their past and they cannot make new memories either. A recording of a male voice plays. It's a message to himself with a list of things he should remember, like his wife and son, his mother, important moments of his childhood, and objects that hold some meaning to him. When the owner of this voice wakes up, however, he has no recollection of anything. Guy finds himself on top of some blankets with a woman he doesn't recognize inside an abandoned building he doesn't remember entering. When girl wakes up too, she doesn't remember who or where they are either, but they both have the feeling they know each other. They soon discover they're wearing the same bracelet, so that at least means they want to stay together. Girl finds a can of peaches that she shares with Guy, and they're both surprised to taste how sweet they are. When girl tucks her hair behind her ear, Guy realizes he knew she was going to do that, so at least their brains have some sense of what is right. Then, girl finds a mirror, and as they both look at themselves on it as if it was the first time, Guy wonders if they're siblings, but girl thinks they're probably a couple. To test it, they decide to kiss, and while the first time is kinda awkward, it still feels right, so they kiss a second time with more feeling and even a hug. They both admit they've been feeling their love for the other since they woke up, but they were so confused by the amnesia that it didn't become clear until now. Afterward, they try to guess each other's names, deciding to settle on Ben and Jenny, even if they don't sound entirely right. They also go to explore the rest of the building, but they don't find anyone else there, although they do take some extra food supplies and a box of matches. They manage to find their apartment again because they see their blankets there and girl thinks they should clean up, but Guy disagrees. This isn't where they live, they probably were on their way to someplace better. Girl doesn't want to leave, she thinks the place is safe and has food, but Guy points out they won't survive there for long. He promises that if they don't find someplace better then they can return, and he's sure they'll remember this building, so girl gives in and accepts to try. They put on some jackets they find in the closet, pack a bag with blankets and food, then leave the building while holding hands. In another part of town, a young boy explores the area while humming a tune. He's found by a bold man, Guardian, who makes him go with him to keep him safe. Curious, boy tugs at Guardian's watch, so the man proceeds to explain to him how it works plus the concepts of time and space. After giving boy the watch, he walks on while continuing his explanation, and he's so engrossed in it that he doesn't notice boy stopping to pick up a mirror and look at his own face as it was the first time. When boy notices Guardian is walking away, he rushes to catch up with him, but Guardian already has forgotten him and talks to him as if he never saw him before. Once again, he asks him to go with him so he can look out for him, and when he sees the watch, he takes it back, wondering who gave it to him when it's too big for a child. They enter a building in ruins and find an umbrella on the ground, which Guardian uses to show boy a dance recreating the famous Singing in the Rain scene. Then they stop to share a can of food they found around, unaware that a young man, Chaos, is watching them. Guardian explains to boy that they need to find home and even draws a house on the dirt, and since they're distracted by that, Chaos uses the chance to jump in and try to steal the can of food. Guardian tries to stop him, and the two men pull at the can until Chaos hits Guardian, killing him. Boy and Chaos stare at each other for a moment before Chaos walks away, taking the food with him, and boy lays down next to Guardian. He waits a few moments to see if he'll wake up, but since there's no reaction, boy takes his watch and leaves as well. Meanwhile, in yet another part of town, Miranda wakes up inside the bunker she's been safely living in with her father for the last decade. After washing her body with only liquid soap and her hair with powder, she puts on a pair of contacts and a special necklace that are connected to the bunker's AI. The AI's voice reminds her they need to do her self-diagnostic memory test, during which Miranda answers various questions about herself, like her place and date of birth, and then she's given a made-up scenario of which she must recall the details and repeat them back. She answers all the questions perfectly, and after counting back from 10, the AI declares her to be healthy and at only 0.12% of likelihood of infection. This is followed by her daily exercise routine with father, and a breakfast made up of boring processed food. Father tries to start a conversation, asking her about her cello lessons and when the song will be ready for him to hear, but Miranda thinks it doesn't matter and it's pointless. This frustrates father, who thinks they should carry on making music and looking at paintings because that's how they preserve what is uniquely human, but Miranda feels this only makes her another piece in his museum. Miranda spends the afternoon watching old photos of her family and listening to music while father looks at his collection of paintings with opera playing in the background. Deep in the forest, there is a cabin where teacher stays. He used to be a neurologist, but the only reason he knows this is that he's seen his own face on the back of the books he's written. Nowadays, he's studying all the neurology books he has at home and taking notes, trying to find a way to regain proper memory, to no avail. Every day he goes out to the forest for wood and to the river for water, and in order not to get lost and not forget the way back, he's tied colorful thread around the trees which he can follow back to the house. In the meantime, Boy keeps on exploring, and eventually finds a house with a woman wearing a long dress too small for her and too many accessories. She's been there since she was a young girl, and because of a plastic crown that she's found in the house, she thinks she used to be a queen. When she sees Boy stopping by her garden to play with her pinwheel, she invites him inside, promising lots of other cute things. After cleaning his face and taking away his watch, she sits him down at a table with lots of fancy cluttery on it and fills both their bowls with candy. They eat together as woman claims nothing bad has ever happened to her, then woman takes Boy to a room full of plushies. They lay down on the pile and woman tries to tell Boy a story, but it's short and simple. All the people from a kingdom disappeared except for one girl, who went out to look for others. She found them in a house waiting for her, and they were so happy that they threw a party and they lived happily ever after. The end. Meanwhile, Chaos is at a park, first sitting on a swing and then getting on top of a dome climber. Eventually, he gets bored of this and leaves to walk around, checking the trash for anything interesting until suddenly, he sees a woman sitting by and immediately goes after her. This woman sees him as well and begins running away, and at some point, Chaos manages to tackle her to the ground, trying to take her clothes off. The woman manages to push him off and begins running again, but when Chaos tries going after her, he freezes when he suddenly sees a horse. He's amazed by the creature, but not remembering what it is, he's also afraid of it, so he doesn't dare to touch it and just leaves. Guy and girl find a building with an empty pool, and after looking around for a bit, they have so fun sliding down the water sleds. Afterward, they go back to the road, where girl hums a tone she doesn't remember the lyrics of. Eventually they find a church, and although they don't recognize it as such, they feel at peace there, especially when they realize it feels like they've been there before. After admiring the colors the light takes when it goes through the stained glass windows, they go upstairs and lay down some blankets in order to make love. When night falls, they start a fire and cuddle under the blankets while girl finally recalls the lyrics to the song she's been humming, but they are in another language she can't understand. Suddenly, she realizes neither of them remembers where they were the days before, which means they forget everything when they go to sleep. So they agree to stay up all night to avoid forgetting each other. The night passes and a new day begins for all the survivors. Boy wakes up among all the plushies, and when he tries to leave the room, he finds the door locked, so he climbs out the window instead. He goes back to exploring the area and ends up entering the forest and eventually comes across Teacher, who is out picking up wood. He tells Boy to go away, but Boy doesn't listen and follows him to his house, so Teacher ends up taking pity on him and invites him inside to share some food with him. He lets him nap on his couch while he reads, and even gives him a pencil and a notebook so he can doodle. When the time comes to go out for more wood, Teacher explains to him he knows how to chop wood even if he doesn't remember why, but Boy is young so his job will be picking up sticks. Sometime later, Boy finds two bicycles, one for an adult-sized and the other one kid-sized, so Teacher teaches him how to ride. The first few times he keeps a hand on Boy and his bike so he doesn't fall, but after practicing for a while, Boy manages to ride on his own. When he wants to go to the forest alone, Teacher lets him to, but only after tying some thread around him so he can't get lost. He stays at home reading his books while Boy explores as far as the thread allows him to, and when he can't move forward any longer, he goes back by collecting the thread in his hands. Teacher finds a doodle on one of his books, but instead of getting angry, he tears the page off and hangs it on the wall. Despite their promise, Guy and girl ended up falling asleep anyway, and now they wake up with no recollection of the previous day or each other. Just like the day before, they accept they are together thanks to the bracelets, so they leave the church building while once again trying to come up with names for each other. This time they agree on Max and Katie, thinking they feel right. Suddenly, girl cries out in pain and when Guy checks on her, he finds she's accidentally stepped on a nail. He takes it out before removing the shoe, and when he sees all the blood, he tells her he'll go looking for some water they can use to clean the wound. Girl doesn't want to let him go, scared that he'll forget her, but he promises he won't. Guy runs to the nearest house and finds a bottle of water, but when he comes out, he's forgotten it all. So he just takes a sip before returning to the road and leaving girl behind, who forgets about him as well. Meanwhile, Chaos has found a parking lot. He picks up a pipe from the floor and begins smashing all the cars he can find around. Eventually he finds one that seems to have stuff in it, so he gets inside to see if he can get anything useful. Sadly, nothing catches his interest, so he moves to the back seat to take a nap, but he's barely closed his eyes when he's found by three men. They drag him out of the car, and when Chaos tries to fight to get them off him, they punch him and knock him out with the pipe. When he wakes up moments later, Chaos finds himself being taken advantage of by the three men. Once they are gone, he stays on the floor crying for a while, and when he finally finds the strength to get up, he goes to the roof of the building, intending to jump. However, while he's standing on the edge, his memory of what's happened slowly goes away, so he stops crying and begins laughing instead as he picks up empty bottles to throw at a random person on the street that is just passing by. Now he's himself again. He goes back to destroying things whenever he finds them and brooding in the corners of random rooms. Back in the bunker, Miranda spends some hours in the only room with a window on the ceiling that allows her to look at the sky. Afterward, she has lunch with Father, who tells her he's memorized a poem, but she has nothing new to talk about in return. What she does say is asking him to leave the bunker, a request she's been making since she was a kid. Father turns her down, even when she mentions people left could be fine because he thinks that if that was the case they would have received a message. Miranda also wants to look for her mom, but Father tells her he's already done everything he could. Miranda just was too young to remember how bad things were when the virus first appeared. Father thinks that if they leave, they will lose it all, but Miranda points out that with every day being the same, there's nothing to lose anyway. Afterward, Miranda plays the cello for Father, making him proud. Now she's done what he wanted her to do, she asks him again to leave together, but he reminds her leaving equals losing the memories of family, friends, and beautiful creations like music. Miranda is too upset to answer, and when she goes to her room to revisit the photos of her childhood, the AI begins the memory test. Tired of this, Miranda answers wrong on purpose as she cries, and the AI reaches the conclusion that she must be infected. This is the final nail on the coffin, so Miranda packs up a bag and after leaving a note for Father, who is currently napping, she leaves the bunker, ready to find out what is left out there. After forgetting about Guy, girl goes back to exploring, and manages to fill 2 bags with some supplies with stuff she finds around. While wandering around, she finds herself discovering the beach for what she thinks it's the first time ever. She plays with the sand and while the sea scares her a bit at first, eventually she gets brave enough to get into the water and enjoy the waves. Afterward, she returns to town and starts scavenging again, only this time she's interrupted by a sudden storm. She rushes to a nearby building where various survivors are hiding away from the rain, and there she finds Guy, noticing he has the same bracelet as hers. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.